In order, Pastor Ken, would you come forward and say a prayer, please?
Good evening. Lord, we thank you for the leadership of our community, and we thank you for all the various ways that our community is best served by their hand. We thank you for the progress of our community. We thank you for all of the new and upcoming things that excite us about our future. And Lord, we pray for the potential of our community, that which we have not yet seen may emerge as fit and just and perfect in your sight. Guide us in these efforts tonight and always. Through our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Ken. This is a public meeting of the Cedar Lake Town Council for June 4th, 2019. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I ask that each person takes a moment to reflect on the loss of life in Virginia and the mass shooting of public servants in that community. So a very sad day, and hopefully those families can find some peace going forward.
And I think we ought to pray for Chicago. 41 shootings over the weekend and 10 people dead. That's similar to Virginia Beach.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. We'll start tonight with roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Here,
Ralph Miller.
Present.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
Greg Parker.
Here.
Richard Sharp.
Here.
Julie Rivera is absent. John Foreman is absent. Jill Murr, Town Administrator. Here. David Austin, Town Attorney.
Present. We have a quorum. We'll start with public comment on agenda items. If you have public comment on agenda items, come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Is there public comment on agenda items? Third and final call for public comment on agenda items. There being none, public comment is closed. We have our consent agenda, the minutes of the May 21st, 2019 meeting, the claims, all town funds, $82,450.41. Wastewater operating, $274,367.19. Water utility, $15,067.34. Stormwater, $7,360.04. And payroll for May 30th and May 31st, 2019 of $179,266.50. Is there a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes and accept the consent agenda as listed?
so moved.
Motion by Councilmember Carnahan.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes,
Greg Parker.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Ordinances and resolutions. Item 1 is ordinance 1335, the Wrightfeld Public Way Vacation. The first reading was May 21st, 2019. Mr. Sharp, could I ask you to read that by its title only, please?
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1335.
1339,
1335.
Rick. Oh, I'm sorry, 1335. That's correct.
An ordinance vacating a public way in the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Okay, thank you. You've heard a reading by its title only of ordinance 1335. Mr. Austin?
This is a standard public way vacation application by an owner of property in the 13900 block of Huseman. He's the owner on both sides of a 10-foot walkway that he seeks your consideration of vacating. Pretty simple legal description, and he owns on both sides of this property. In fact, his home and improvements are on both sides of this 10-foot.
And currently, there's really no public access that can be gained through this right away?
Neither way.
Okay. You've heard the reading of ordinance, the second reading of ordinance 1335 and an explanation. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Sharp,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Miller. Are there questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
No.
Greg Parker,
No.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Motion fails due to a lack of 4 votes.
Next agenda.
They'll be on the next agenda. This will carry over. Okay, item 2 is ordinance 1339, Oakwood rezoned to PUD. Mr. Sharp, by its title only, please.
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1339. An ordinance reclassifying certain lands in the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana for zoning purposes and amending town ordinance number 486B. An ordinance replacing zoning ordinance number 273 entitled Cedar Lake, Indiana zoning ordinance passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of the town of Cedar Lake, Indiana, and all amendments passed subsequent thereto, repealing zoning ordinance number 278, all amendments thereto, and all ordinances or parts of amendments in a conflict herewith, establishing new comprehensive zoning regulations for the town of Cedar Lake and providing for the administration, enforcement, and amendment thereof in accordance with the provisions of the Indiana state statutes. Passed by the town council of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, the 13th day of December, 1988, and all amendments
89.
passed related thereto.
Let
Is
the record
89.
reflect it was December of 89.
89, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Mr. Austin?
This is this is before you on a favorable recommendation certification of your plan commission. A public hearing was held in April on this matter, deferred to May on this matter, completed at the May public meeting of the plan commission. Recommendation is for the planned unit residential planned unit development of this acreage parcel on the north side of 129th Avenue between the railroad tracks and Route 41. Conditions are imposed. They're pretty stringent, very detailed. The Plan Commission worked really hard on this, and the developer responded to a large number of comments from your citizens, as well as inquiries of commissioners. The Plan Commission president is here. He was at the meeting, as was Councilman Sharp and Councilman Liaison Carnahan. If I missed something, they can fill in the blanks.
I would just add that this is for rezoning of property from R1 residential zoning district classification and a B2 community business zoning classification to a 2019 Oakwood Crossing residential plan unit development.
Thanks, Bob. Dave, is this 2 reading or 1 reading?
It's a single reading.
Okay, thank you.
They did address every complaint from the citizens that came in. Touched on every single one and made it better.
In detail, yes, in detail.
And you were comfortable with what was addressed, Greg?
Well, I mean, I'm not comfortable with fast growth, no matter what, that's no secret, but I'm comfortable with what they did to address the citizens' complaints.
Okay.
I mean, it fits.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
there will be some add-ons to this ordinance as they are completed, the planned unit development contract and the like. You'll note there were exhibits identified here. So this ordinance, once adopted, will be the recipient of appendages as referenced in the document.
Okay.
I would like to say that I'm going to contact NDOT. I know the chief and Jill have been in contact. We're trying to get a stoplight put up at 129th and 41. And this would probably be some more justification for getting us a light out there.
It will, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. You've heard the adoptive reading of ordinance 1339, as well as an explanation from the town attorney, Mr. Carnahan and Mr. Parker. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan,
Second,
second by Mr. Sharp. Are there questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
Greg Parker,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Ordinance is adopted. We will move on to reports. Any town council reports?
Just so everybody is aware, it is not the town of Cedar Lake that's going to be shutting down the recycling center down at Public Works. The drop-off centers at Cedar Lake Public Works is scheduled for closing Tuesday, June 18th. On that day, the recycling containers and the signs will be removed. So what has happened there is that contamination has been so bad, almost 50% is contaminated, and they only accept 5% contamination. And they had 27 of these all over Lake County. It went down to 17. They went down to 9. Now they're currently down to 7, and ours is the worst one out of the 7. So ours will be the first one that will be eliminated, and the others will be eliminated by the end of October. But this isn't the town doing this. This is Lake County Solid Waste, who totally believe that has been a waste of taxpayers' dollars, because none of that stuff has been recycled. It was all going to landfill because of the contamination.
I'm happy that they've considered something to be a waste of taxpayer dollars as much as they waste. That's interesting. And Bob, it wasn't the first one to be shut down. The 27th one was the first one.
Right.
So a lot of that's from illegal dumping, people putting things in there that shouldn't be in there. Is that correct?
I went down there about 3 weeks in a row. 1 week, a car bumper. The next week, another car bumper, a desk. Somebody had disassembled a plastic shed and slid it in those slots.
Holy smokes.
Mr. President.
Mr. Austin?
At least they
Isn't
didn't
the
have
lake-
unauthorized accumulation.
God bless you.
Gotta get rid of it somewhere.
Mr. Austin?
Bob, isn't the Lake County Solid Waste Management District a taxing body?
Yes,
And they collect taxes from us.
yes.
It's on the levy. Part of the annual tax levy, correct? Have they informed you or anybody here what the plan is for the money they're collecting from us, but are not using necessarily in solid waste management governance?
I wasn't at their last meeting due to the fact that I had family in from California. And so they called me and told me they did this, so I wasn't there during
I'm
conversation.
sorry, and I guess I asked the question because back in the beginning, I was here when that came along and we were informed by Attorney Dugan and Mr. Langben that this was a necessity and we had to recycle and we had to, do all the things that are related to that, waste management. And that if we didn't, we would not get the tax distribution grant. They call it a grant. It's our tax money, but it was delineated and denominated as grant. What they're going to do with those funds that are semi-annually distributed to our town?
But those are still being given out. And I was told that Jennifer did an excellent job in getting our report in the Lake County Solid Waste. So thank you, Jennifer.
So will we discontinue being taxed if we're not getting any service?
Well, maybe I can suggest that any additional money can go to the municipalities because it helps us pay some of our public works people.
Those are great questions. I assure you, they'll figure out a way to spend that money.
I mean,
And it
I don't know
won't be
if
here.
anybody else was here the nights that they came in and they were explaining the program, and if you didn't, they could withhold your grant money. Our tax money was their grant money. And, it was a pretty heavy hammer that was put on us. And you've included it in your contracts with your waste providers ever since.
Dave, not to be a smart aleck, and I mean, that tends to be my nature a lot of times, but it's a fair question to me. Lake County Solid Waste and Recycling, it looks to me like even all the items that you cited could be recycled somehow, couldn't they?
No, because it has become very tight The only items that can be recycled is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Number 6 was eliminated because China is no longer buying the styrofoam, which number 6 is, and number 7. And our haulers here in town can only accept those items also in the containers that we get. And if we put that kind of stuff in there, I don't know if they have to sort that or what they do with it.
Well, here's the deal. If the Lake County Solid Waste District is that particular about what we can recycle, then maybe it has outlasted its usefulness. The money, though, is still an issue.
It's pretty substantial. They have a $2 million budget or thereabouts, or they did at one time, and it was quite a lot of money.
They're also
What did it
paying
cost the
off a
county?
lawsuit too that was filed before I even got on that board
Yeah, that was a bad.
with Hickory Hills.
Well, and it was explained to me at the meeting that John and I had with the representatives of Republic Waste is that it's getting to the point with recycling where the business model's flipped, where it costs more to get rid of it and there's not enough revenue left at the end. Is that right, Rich?
Yeah, that's pretty correct. And the problem is, like Bob said, is the tires going in with plastic.
Yeah.
You know, commingling everything isn't right, so
Yeah.
it costs in the long
Yeah.
run. You know, wood going in cardboard, you know, so you contaminate a load, so it would cost more in the long run, to where it almost needs to be monitored at Public Works.
And the prediction that was made to us at that meeting was that within the next 5 to 8 years, we will actually have to pay to have recyclables removed because the system is so flooded with things that there's just no place to go with it.
Rich, tell them about your plastic that you've got stored there at your,
I probably have a couple of roll-offs, or shipping containers filled with plastic from number 1 and 2, to siding corners that are baled, that the day I called my plastic guy to bring them in, the market was nothing.
Yeah.
He said they'll take it, but.
You basically have to pay to get rid of it.
For a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, no, you know, for them to take it, it still costs me, you know, transportation, everything else.
Right? You end up at a negative margin on some of the stuff over time.
Yeah, so right now, it's out of sight, out of mind.
and they say by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than there are fish. And that's sad.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, like what Rosenbaum and Mitros were saying about recycling was that recycling is something that we've been made to believe is like as American as apple pie, right? I mean, you're supposed to do it all the time. And now that people do it so much, there's no place to go with the recyclables. There's nothing to do with it. And it's kind of an interesting tipping point that we've reached to figure out how to repurpose
There
that
is
stuff.
places for it, but it's laziness.
Right.
You know, it's throw everything in one thing
Yeah.
because I don't have the time to sort it myself.
Right.
We've been
Interesting.
made to believe the government has a solution for everything too. Maybe it's just.
They don't?
individuals No, they don't.
Oh, okay.
Actually,
Well,
They're
I got-
shocked.
Solutions
I'm
make it
shocked by
worse,
your
definitely.
statement, Greg.
I've got one other thing. Friday, June the 14th is Flag Day. And we will be having a service down at American Legion Post 261, and it'll start at 6 p.m. The time we need to say the pledge to the flag at that time, because they want everybody across the United States saying at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Mountain, and 4 o'clock Pacific time. We have invited both of our United States senators. We've invited our United States congressman. We've invited our Lake County commissioner, our Lake County councilman, and our state senator and our state representative. And I have Jacob Gardner from Gateway Church, who will be singing the Star Spangled Banner and God Bless America due to the fact that Brenda Roberts usually does that, but she's in Germany and won't be back in time. So that's 6 p.m. And then right after we're done with that service, American Legion Post 261 will be retiring old tattered flags. So if you have any that you have to retire, you can bring them down there and they'll be disposing of them there right after the 6 p.m. service.
Thank you, Bob. Any other council reports? Town attorney,
No report.
clerk treasurer?
Nothing.
Town administrator?
Council, as we are finishing up the purchase of the ladder truck from Country Club Hills, we need to look at putting our current ladder truck up for sale. If you would want to consider that item this evening, setting a price, do you want to auction it? Gathering interest in someone who may be interested in that.
Something I'd like to say is, like, as I travel around the country and I get into Appalachia a lot, there's small departments in the south and southeast that can't afford newer equipment, but can and do repurpose older equipment and utilize it for public safety. I would love to look into one, if that truck is something that somebody could repurpose into something like that, and that if we could somehow or another reach out to people in that area that may be in some poor areas of the country that but still need some public safety equipment, to be able to make a sale to someone like that, so that piece of equipment can live on and help somebody rather than end up as a parts machine. Just think it might be better for people if we could do something like that.
Todd, do you know of,
Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus out of Louisiana.
Is that someone that could do that?
They're a broker, that's who we had dealt with on other stuff they actually gave us the quote on the truck, what they thought it was worth originally, a few years ago when we started. So I already reached out to them.
Good.
To maybe post it on their site so they get a commission off that, so.
And to me, that's okay if it can be used for public safety again. It's got some problems that have been documented, but it's got a good engine in it that was rebuilt recently. And you'd like to think that somebody could get something out of it that could help someone.
They invest in it. They do.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Can we get approval to go ahead and start that process then of getting that ready to go once the other piece of equipment is in place?
so move.
I'll second it.
The motion by Councilmember Carnahan, second by Councilmember Parker. Are there questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Greg Parker?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes,
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
thanks.
Next item is, we have been looking, David and I, at the weed abatement ordinance. There's some modernization that needs to be done, so we'll be presenting that to you at an upcoming council meeting. Just wanted to let you know that we'll be bringing that to you. Stormwater board meeting had several items. However, just having that meeting and the timing of this meeting, they aren't on this agenda, so I'll be reporting those back to you at your next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Since you're talking about the weed abatement ordinance, would the council consider suspending that ordinance until it dries up? Say for 2 weeks or so.
Has there been any issues with tickets being issued during this
I'm
wet
told-
time?
I'm told that there has been issues, but more, and I don't, I mean, I can't say for sure. I don't know what goes on out there, but what I do know for sure is there's standing water everywhere and the grass is a foot tall in some places and you can't mow it. So
Chief Colson, have you heard of any instances of with this wet weather, there being,
We have received complaints, citizen complaints about the grass.
what have been done about the enforcement as far as the communications?
We haven't deviated from our new protocols put in
But-
place.
Which is you're communicating with residents first?
Correct.
And has there been any citations of tickets or anything?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not asking to reinvent the wheel here. All I'm asking is because we've gotten so much rain, history making rain, and there's so much standing water, to give folks a chance to get caught up before we're out there counseling them, warning them, or anything else. I just think that's fair.
According to Chicago, weather is that 2019 of May was the most rain that they've ever had in this area. And they broke a record, and 2018 it broke a previous record. So,
Last year was bad. This year's terrible. I deal with it. I don't know if the rest of you do, but we got a lot of standing water out there and you can't mow it if you want to. So getting a visit from law enforcement about about grass you can't mow isn't productive. When you're able to mow it, if it's not getting mowed, that's a different deal. But just being reasonable, pragmatic, and respectful, I think would it's just nice to give people time to catch up.
Is there something that can be done, Chief, like in meetings with your staff about, hey, let's take a look if there's standing water? Do we have to go and make that engagement if there's a real soggy area where somebody just can't mow it?
We do get citizen complaints. I guess we can tell the citizens that are complaining about their neighbor or whatever that.
Well, if it's an area that has standing water like Greg's side, I think it'd be sensible to look at it and say, okay, we gotta wait for it to dry up to mow it. If somebody's complaining about a high ground area with high grass that somebody just didn't mow, I would say that'd be an area where law enforcement need to address it.
I'm whittling away at the grounds at the Cedar Lake Boys and Girls Club. But I looked at it today. I've got grass in areas that probably 15 inches tall. It has been mowed several times this year, but it's full of water. You know, me physically, can't drive the mower down in there, get it stuck, and get it out by myself because we want to enforce someone's complaint that is not reasonable. See, I mean,
Has there
that's all
been a
I'm saying.
complaint on the Boys and Girls Club?
Not yet, but I mean, that phone could ring tomorrow. We still have people
But if
in
it does
town
and
that like to
someone
complain.
can point out, hey, there's standing water
I
here.
really just don't want to get into a debate about it. I just think it would be fair to give people time to catch up. That's all I'm asking.
I was just told that we've got parts of the town grounds we can't mow because it's saturated.
We've got property in town that the town owns that isn't mowed. And I could lodge a complaint about that, but I haven't.
Well, Mr. Parker's brought it to the table about what is your proposal?
Suspend it for a couple of weeks till everybody can get caught up and it dries up a little bit.
Is that a motion?
That is my motion, yes.
All right, we got something now. Mr. Parker made a motion to suspend the weed abatement ordinance for 2 weeks, pending dry weather to get caught up on cutting grass. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rick. Are there questions or discussion on the motion? Roll call vote?
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
Greg Parker,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Okay, 5-0. Got 2
Thanks,
weeks of
folks.
a moratorium here.
Stay.
Stay. I'm sorry, a stay. All right. Any staff reports? Written communication?
Council, you have your Christopher Burke report in front of you. Some updates, Town Club Ditch, Redbud Landscaping's began seeding that corridor. Been very busy with Plan Commission, Noble Oak subdivision and Butternut Street. We put together, John presented us with a site survey proposal to kind of see what we can do with some drainage issues and that subdivision issue outside of a full subdivision reconstruction. So he's working on putting that information together for us, as well as Plan Commission and Stormwater Management. So obviously, we've had some stormwater issues in the community, and we'll report more back to you at your next meeting on that.
Thank you. We'll have open public comment now.
Rich Teal, Midwest PGM, 13513 Industrial Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana. I'd like to add on to what Bob mentioned about Lake County Solid Waste closing their drop-off recycling facility. When I found out, I stopped over at Public Works just to make sure we're on the same page with everything. I've heard comments after it was posted on Facebook that they were shutting down, that people were coming to me asking me if I was closing. And so I went and read, and I understood what it said, that drop-off facilities were closing. So I went down and talked to Sarah over at Public Works, and just to see if the, Public Works was still taking, the household stuff normally, what they take, tires, construction debris, stuff like that. She said, yes, we're not changing, just like Lake County Solid Waste. So I don't know if the town needs to add on the website, it is clear that it's just a drop-off facility, but Public Works is still taking the stuff that they normally took, construction stuff, and things like that.
Okay,
The electrical
That's a good point.
items like TVs and stuff, that's provided by Lake County Solid Waste. They're still taking that. And
Yeah, but a lot of people are unclear about that, so
Yeah.
that's why I don't know if the town needs to state, Public Works is still accepting the same stuff they did during their normal hours. and
But
stuff like
the
that.
tires and the electrical stuff is provided by Lake County Solid Waste, and they're still going to continue to do that.
Yeah, because I spoke to Sarah, and she said, nothing is changing on our end, so I don't know, if there needs to be a little different communication. I read it, made sense to me, but there's still a lot of people are kind of.
maybe in our next newsletter, that can be an article that can clarify some things.
Yeah, I read it, I understood it, but it says just the drop-off facility, which is out in the front, but what goes on inside during the normal hours of the Public Works is still
Going on.
going on.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Any other public comment?
Jim Lamika, 12712 Meadowlark Lane. I just have a question. Some of the town people are aware of this, Jill's aware, Randy, you're aware. It's been almost 3 years now. A fire hydrant broke on my block, houses to the north of me. And during this time when this happened, the water went underneath the sidewalks. And after a couple years of trying to get answers, I was unable to. So I finally contacted John, who came to our house.
I mentioned it in a public meeting too.
Yeah, and I'd just like to know what's going on. I've had people come out and give me an estimate to do the repairs because it's now 4 houses where it's washed out underneath the sidewalks and driveway. And I had a company come out with $7,500, 3 40-foot semis full of material to fill this holes underneath. And I'm just kind of wanting to know if anything's happening here. I am genuinely concerned. And these rains that we've had have made it just worse.
What subdivision is this?
Havenwood.
Table it.
Can we go to our insurance company?
They were of absolutely no help.
Tort
We
claim
went
was,
to the
the
insurance
tort claim
company.
was filed.
Yeah, and they said, because I was the only one that complained about it, they wouldn't cover the rest of the houses, and then I waited 2 months.
Yeah, when I walk Jim's cul-de-sac, you walk on that sidewalk and you can feel it. There's a problem underneath there and it's affecting driveways and everything else.
And within the last month, the part of my driveway from the sidewalk to the street has now sunk.
Mhm.
And so what happens is, this town has videos, they have pictures. In the winter, it comes up underneath the cracks and becomes an ice skating rink. And now, with all these rains are done for a day, it's still coming from underneath. the
Mr.
sidewalk.
Ashen, I'm confused here. We can't fix it because that's a planned unit development and that infrastructure belongs to the homeowners association.
That's part of it, for
But,
sure.
but it was our fire hydrant that
It
burst
was
that
the
caused the
fire hydrant that
initial.
broke, it was the main.
I understand, but that's part of the answer.
And then our insurance company isn't obligated to cover our infrastructure?
They are not. They cover torts or wrongs. And that's how they responded in reaction to the claim.
So fire hydrants are maintained under what utility? Water utility, right?
Should be.
So if one bursts somewhere and causes damage, what's the process to address the damage?
Evaluation what the damage is and whether it's in the
Who
town's
evaluates?
jurisdiction. Well, it happens here internally first.
Okay.
It starts, at the director of operations, field work, field evaluation, and then an analysis. I think we have a file on this, don't we, Joe?
Yeah, I think we do. I remember when that happened the first time.
I think the council needs to see that information, you know.
Can we direct some traffic from up here as far as getting that analysis done and getting this resolved? Because it sounds like
Absolutely.
this problem's getting worse, and by this winter, you could have a serious problem with as much water as in the ground.
You think that's
Seriously, within the last
$7,500?
It's sunk.
Yeah.
And now, when it rains, it just seeps underneath, it comes under. I have more pictures that I sent to John. Now it's the house, it's in the driveway now to the house that's south where it wasn't. So it's 3 houses now hitting the 4th.
Okay.
And I just have concerns. I just like to get this resolved.
4 houses are involved now.
Yes, now 4.
So that quote that you got from the company, that just involved what, removing sections of sidewalk, replacing the,
No, it's mud jacking.
just mud
It
jacking?
was pouring and filling in. When
Okay.
they came out and did a survey, he said he needed 3 40-foot semi-fulls of material to fill in what had been washed out.
Do you have some of that documentation?
I do, the town does also.
Okay, good. That'll be helpful to kind of figure out a strategy, but I would ask that we,
Joe?
right, that we move this thing forward, get some information for the council so we can direct some traffic on this.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna have a little heartburn working on or repairing private-owned stuff with taxpayer money. It's a
Well-
PUD, it's owned privately.
But it was our infrastructure that caused the damage.
I guess I kind of see that, but they have an HOA, it has dues, they collect dues. Do they have insurance on do they carry insurance on their
They should,
stuff?
they should have insurance on their infrastructure.
But if our infrastructure
stairs.
caused the damage, shouldn't there be at least a part of this that the town should address?
That is what has to be evaluated or looked at.
That's what I want to look at. I'm not suggesting, Greg, that we just throw money at this thing. What I'm suggesting is that we do our due diligence and see what it is that the town's infrastructure caused in damage, and then be able to make a decision from there.
I mean, that day, that main broke so hard, they took the sidewalk and folded it underneath. And that's how much water was.
Yeah, I do remember that main break there that was right by the hydrant. Yeah.
Right in front of you.
Yeah.
Another one of those issues that the government always doesn't have a solution to deal with.
No, we don't always have a solution, but I think in this case, looking at damage that was directly relatable to our infrastructure is something we should do. I mean, it just sounds like a common sense thing to do. So,
Thank you for your time, I really appreciate it.
thanks, Jim. Appreciate you coming. Any other public comment? Any public comment? Third call. Public comment's closed. This meeting will be directly followed by a utility board special meeting, so you can stick around if you'd like. The next regular town council public meeting is Tuesday, June 18th, 2019 at 7 PM, which will be followed by our regular utility board meeting. And this meeting is adjourned.
Maybe going straight into your meeting.
Yeah, we're going to go straight into the next meeting. I have to tell John wherever he's at that this one didn't go 2 hours.
Most of the time, it's his fault.